The message came without warning. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same moment. Televisions, computers, phones, even the giant displays in city squares all showed the same thing. An alien face appeared, looking down at humanity with eyes that held nothing but contempt. Commander Jake Morrison was in the command center when it happened. He watched the holographic projection materialize in front of him. The creature was massive, even through the screen. Its skin looked like dark green scales, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural yellow light. Behind it, dozens of other alien beings sat in what looked like a grand council chamber. The alien spoke, and somehow the words translated perfectly into every language on Earth. Humans of the planet you call Earth, I am Zarthor, Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Dominion. We have been watching your primitive world. We have studied your species. We have reached a conclusion. The alien paused, and Jake could hear what sounded like laughter from the other creatures in the chamber. It was not friendly laughter. It was the kind of laugh bullies make when they find someone weaker than themselves. You are amusing, Zarthor continued. Your technology is basic. Your understanding of the universe is limited. Your military capabilities are laughable. Therefore, we are giving you an opportunity. Send your best warriors to our trials. Compete against the champions of the Dominion. When you lose, and you will lose, Earth will become a labor colony. Your people will serve the greater species of the galaxy. The alien leaned closer to the camera, its face filling every screen on Earth. You have 3 months to prepare. We will send you coordinates to a neutral station, where the trials will take place. Do not think of refusing. We have ships surrounding your solar system right now. Resistance will result in immediate destruction of your world. We look forward to your entertainment. The transmission ended with more laughter. Then the screens went dark. Jake stood in silence for a moment. Around him, the command center erupted into chaos. People were shouting, making phone calls, trying to understand what had just happened. Captain Lisa Chen ran into the room, her face pale. Did you see it? She asked. Everyone on Earth saw it, Jake replied quietly. He looked at the replay of the message on his personal screen. They think we're a joke, are we? Lisa asked. Jake, we don't even have faster-than-light travel yet. We've barely made it to Mars. How are we supposed to compete with beings who can cross the galaxy? Jake studied the alien's face in the frozen image. There was something in that expression, something that bothered him. Get me Ambassador Karen Price and General Ben Martinez. We need to call an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. Within 3 hours, representatives from every nation gathered in the emergency council chamber. The mood was grim. President Marcus Webb opened the meeting with a simple question. Does anyone have any good news? No one spoke. Then Dr. Helen Grant stood up. She was Earth's leading expert on alien life, though until today that had been purely theoretical. I've analyzed the transmission, she said. I've studied their body language, their technology, everything visible in that broadcast. I have some observations. Please, President Webb said. We need anything helpful right now. Helen pulled up images on the large screen. These beings are physically imposing. They come from high-gravity worlds based on their muscle structure. But look at their technology. It's advanced, yes, but it's also old. Very old. The ship designs visible in the background haven't changed in what I estimate to be centuries. Their armor, their weapons, even their communication systems all show signs of being refined versions of ancient designs. What does that mean? Asked General Martinez. It means they've stopped innovating, Helen explained. They've reached a level of technology and stayed there. They haven't needed to improve because they haven't faced real challenges. Look at their military records, which they helpfully included in their message to intimidate us. Their last actual war was over 200 years ago. Since then, they've just been bullying younger species. Jake felt something click in his mind. They've grown complacent. Exactly, Helen said. They expect us to fight like they fight, to think like they think, to follow their rules. And if we don't? Lisa asked. Helen smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had just thought of something clever. Then we might actually have a chance. The council debated through the night. Some argued for trying to negotiate. Others wanted to fight immediately. A few suggested simply surrendering and hoping for mercy. But slowly, a different idea began to take shape. They want warriors, Jake said during the early morning hours. They want us to send our strongest, most disciplined fighters. They want us to play their game. So we give them something else, Lisa added, catching on. We give them something they've never seen before. Ambassador Karen Price, who had been quiet most of the meeting, finally spoke up. Throughout human history, we've won battles we had no right to win. We've defeated larger armies, overcome impossible odds, survived when survival seemed impossible. We've never been the strongest species on our own planet. Yet we're the ones who built cities and went to space. Do you know why? Why? President Webb asked. Because we adapt, Karen said. We improvise. We think sideways when everyone else thinks straight. We make jokes in the face of death. We try things that make no logical sense and somehow make them work. The Dominion thinks these are weaknesses. Maybe they're wrong. The room fell silent as everyone considered this. Then General Martinez stood up. I'll start assembling a team, but not the kind of team they're expecting. Over the next few days, word spread across Earth about what was happening. The initial panic began to transform into something else. Determination, anger at being mocked, and strangely a kind of dark humor. Social media filled with memes about the Galactic Dominion. Artists created cartoons showing the aliens slipping on banana peels. Musicians wrote songs about not being afraid. It was exactly what Jake had hoped to see. Humans being human, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez was chosen to lead the team that would go to the trials. He was a good soldier, smart and brave, but what really qualified him was something else. He had once won a military exercise by doing something so unexpected that the referees had to spend 3 hours debating whether it was legal. It was technically, and Sam's team had won. I need 50 people, Sam told Jake during their first meeting. Not just soldiers. I need engineers, athletes, people who can think fast. I need someone who can make other people laugh. I need someone who understands psychology. I need people who can look at a problem and find solutions that don't exist yet. That's a strange team for a combat trial, Jake observed. Sam grinned. Exactly. The selection process began immediately. From around the world, candidates arrived. They came from military units, sports teams, research facilities, even entertainment industries. Each one brought unique skills. Each one had proven they could think differently. As the weeks passed and the team trained together, something remarkable happened. They began to understand not just how to fight, but how to fight in ways the Dominion would never expect. They studied everything humanity had ever learned about winning against superior forces. Ancient battles, modern conflicts, even games and sports strategies. We're not going to beat them at their own game, Sam told his team during one training session. We're going to change the game entirely. We're going to make them question everything they think they know. With 1 month left before departure, Jake received another message from the Dominion. It was brief and mocking. We hope you are preparing well, humans. Several species have requested the privilege of watching your failure. It will be broadcast across the galaxy. Try not to disappoint us by dying too quickly. Jake showed the message to Sam, expecting anger. Instead, Sam laughed. Perfect, he said. The more eyes watching, the better. When we pull this off, everyone will see it. You sound confident, Jake said. I'm terrified, Sam admitted. But that's okay. Fear makes humans sharp. Fear makes us creative. Those aliens have forgotten what it's like to be afraid. That's their weakness, and we're going to exploit it. The countdown continued. Earth held its breath and prepared to show the galaxy what happened when you underestimated humanity. The training facility in Colorado became the center of Earth's hopes. 50 men and women worked day and night to prepare for something none of them fully understood. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez watched his team run through another exercise. They were not practicing traditional combat. Instead, they were learning to think in ways that made no conventional sense. Natalie Foster flipped through the air, her gymnast training making her movements look effortless. She had won Olympic medals, but that was not why Sam chose her. He chose her because during one competition, her routine had gone wrong halfway through. Instead of panicking, she had improvised an entirely new sequence on the spot and still won. That kind of thinking was what they needed. Again, Sam called out. But this time, pretend gravity is reversed. Natalie grinned and adjusted her approach. The team was learning to expect the unexpected, to make the impossible seem easy. In another part of the facility, engineer Kevin Park sat surrounded by alien technology samples. Well, not real alien technology. Earth did not have that. But he had the scans and data from the Dominion broadcast. He studied every pixel, every reflection, every detail visible in the background. Their shields operate on a rotating frequency, Kevin explained to his assistant, a young woman named Amy Brooks. It's sophisticated, but it follows a pattern. Patterns can be predicted. Predictions can be exploited. Can we break through them? Amy asked. Maybe, Kevin said. But more importantly, we might be able to confuse them. If we can introduce variables their systems aren't designed to handle, we might create openings. He pulled up another screen showing the Dominion's weapons. Look at this. Every weapon they showed follows the same basic principle. Energy projectiles with predictable trajectories. They've optimized them to perfection. But optimization for one thing means vulnerability to another. What's the vulnerability? Amy asked. Kevin smiled. Chaos. They've removed all randomness from their systems. Everything is precise, controlled, predictable. They've forgotten that sometimes randomness is an advantage. Across the facility, Danny Carter ran combat drills with a group of soldiers and martial artists. Danny had served in special forces for 15 years. He had seen combat in places most people never heard about. But he was not teaching traditional fighting techniques. Forget everything you know about fair fighting, Danny told his students. The Dominion expects honor. They expect rules. They expect combat to follow established patterns. We're going to give them none of that. He demonstrated a move that looked ridiculous. It involved spinning, throwing something random and using the opponent's confusion to strike from an unexpected angle. In a real fight, this looks stupid. But stupid works if your opponent has never seen it before. One of the trainees, a former boxer named Chris Palmer, raised his hand. What if they adapt? What if they learn our tricks? Then we use different tricks, Danny said simply. Humans have been outnumbered and outgunned for our entire history. We survived because we never stop adapting. The Dominion has been dominant for so long they've forgotten how to adapt. That's our edge. In the psychology wing, Dr. Linda Hayes worked with the team on mental preparation. She was not just teaching them to handle stress. She was teaching them something much more important: how to get inside the enemy's head. Fear and anger make people stupid, Linda explained during a session. The Dominion is arrogant. Arrogance is just another kind of stupidity. If we can make them angry, make them confused, make them question themselves, they'll make mistakes. How do we do that? Asked Greg Mason, a comedian who had somehow ended up on this military team. That's where you come in, Linda said, pointing at Greg. Humor is a weapon. It always has been. Throughout history, people have used jokes and mockery to undermine authority, to make powerful people look foolish, to boost morale when things look hopeless. The Dominion wants to intimidate us. What if instead we make them laugh? Not with us, but at themselves? Greg thought about this. So we're psychological warfare through comedy? Exactly, Linda said. Make them uncertain. Make them question why they're not afraid of us. Make them wonder what we know that they don't. The weeks turned into months. The team grew closer, learning to work together in ways that seemed impossible at first. The soldiers learned from the engineers. The athletes learned from the scientists. The comedian learned from everyone and taught them all how to stay calm through humor. Commander Jake Morrison visited regularly to check on progress. During one visit, Sam showed him what the team had accomplished. We've developed 17 different strategies for each trial, Sam explained. We don't know what challenges they'll throw at us, but we're ready to improvise for anything. Show me, Jake said. Sam gathered the team in the main training area. Scenario: we're in a zero-gravity environment fighting an opponent with superior reach and strength. Traditional approach would be to avoid close combat, use ranged weapons, try to outmaneuver. What do we do instead? Natalie stepped forward. We change the environment itself. Kevin, show him. Kevin activated a demonstration. Small spheres floated in the air, mimicking zero gravity. Ball bearings, he said. Simple, low-tech, impossible to track individually. In zero gravity, they turn the entire battlefield into chaos. The stronger opponent can't use their strength effectively because they can't find stable positions. Meanwhile, we use the chaos to our advantage. Jake watched as the team demonstrated. It looked ridiculous at first, but the more he watched, the more he understood. They were not trying to fight with strength. They were changing the rules of engagement entirely. What about the strategic challenges? Jake asked. They'll test your minds, not just your bodies. Sam nodded to another team member, a chess grandmaster named Roy Campbell. Roy brought up a simulation. Traditional strategy follows logical patterns. You control territory, manage resources, predict enemy movements. We've studied the Dominion's strategic history. They're brilliant at traditional warfare, so we won't play traditional warfare. The simulation showed something bizarre. Instead of defending territory, The human forces in the simulation simply moved to completely unexpected locations. Instead of managing resources normally, they used them in ways that made no tactical sense at first, but created confusion and opened opportunities. "It's beautiful," Jake said, and he meant it. "It's crazy, but it's beautiful." "Crazy is the point," Sam said. "The Dominion has seen every logical strategy. They've never seen illogical strategies that somehow work." As departure day approached, the team received their final briefings. They would travel to the neutral station aboard a transport ship called Unity. The ship was not fast or impressive, but it did not need to be. This was not a military invasion. It was 50 humans going to prove something to the galaxy. The night before departure, the team gathered for a final meeting. There were no speeches about glory or honor. Instead, they sat together, shared a meal, and told jokes. Some were nervous. Some were excited. All of them understood the stakes. "We might fail," Sam told them honestly. "The odds are against us. But even if we fail, we're going to make them remember us. We're going to show the galaxy that humans don't give up. We don't surrender, and we definitely don't go quietly." "What if we win?" Natalie asked. Sam grinned. "Then we change everything." The next morning, the team boarded Unity. Earth watched as the ship lifted off, carrying humanity's hopes into space. On board, the team was calm. They had trained for this moment. They were ready to face the Galactic Dominion and show them what happened when you mocked humanity. The journey to the neutral station would take 2 weeks. During that time, the team continued training, preparing, and most importantly, keeping their spirits up. They played games, told stories, and reminded each other why they were doing this. "For Earth," Danny said one evening. "For everyone who believes in us," Natalie added. "For the look on their faces when we win," Greg finished, making everyone laugh. The Unity flew through space, carrying 50 humans toward destiny. Behind them, Earth waited. Ahead of them, the Galactic Dominion prepared to be entertained by humanity's failure. Neither side knew yet that the trials would change the galaxy forever. The neutral station was enormous. It floated in space near a dying star, bigger than anything humanity had ever built. As the Unity approached, the team pressed against the windows to see. Hundreds of alien ships surrounded the station, each one representing a different species from across the galaxy. "That's a lot of witnesses," Natalie whispered. "Good," Sam replied. "Let them watch." When they docked and entered the station, the humans got their first real look at the Galactic Dominion. The main hall was massive, with ceilings so high they seemed to disappear into darkness. Thousands of alien beings filled the space, and every single one of them turned to stare at the human delegation as they entered. The humans looked tiny in comparison. Most of the aliens towered over them. Some had multiple arms, others had claws or tentacles. They all looked like they were built for war. The humans, in their simple uniforms, looked almost fragile. Zarthor stood on a raised platform at the center of the hall. He was even more imposing in person than on the broadcast. 9 feet tall, covered in scales that looked like armor, with eyes that glowed with contempt. Around him stood his advisors and champions, each one a warrior from species that had never known defeat. "The humans have arrived," Zarthor announced, his voice booming through the hall. Laughter erupted from the crowd. Not polite laughter, but cruel mocking. "How delightful. Tell me, little creatures, which of you will embarrass yourselves first?" Sam stepped forward. He looked up at the massive alien and smiled. "Actually, we were wondering if you needed a handicap. You know, to keep things fair." The laughter died instantly. The hall fell silent. Every alien stared at Sam in disbelief. No conquered species had ever spoken to the Dominion this way. Zarthor leaned down, bringing his huge face close to Sam. "What did you say?" "I asked if you need a handicap," Sam repeated calmly. "It's just that you seem really confident, and we want to make sure this is actually competitive. Oh, also, we brought snacks. Anyone want some crackers? They're shaped like little fish. They're pretty good." Sam pulled out a small bag of crackers and offered them to the nearest alien warrior, who looked completely confused. Zarthor straightened up, his expression somewhere between anger and bewilderment. "Your insolence will be your downfall, human. The trials begin tomorrow. 5 challenges, 5 chances for you to fail. When you do, your world becomes ours." "Cool," Sam said. "What time should we be here? Is there breakfast, or should we eat before we come?" The Chancellor turned away, clearly not knowing how to respond. His advisors whispered urgently among themselves. This was not how defeated species acted. They were supposed to be afraid, submissive, begging for mercy. These humans seemed almost cheerful. That night, in their assigned quarters, the human team reviewed the trial information they had been given. The first challenge would be single combat in zero gravity. The Dominion champion had won 47 consecutive fights. His name is Vormax, Kevin said, reading from his datapad. 6 arms, incredibly fast, trained in 17 different combat styles. He's never lost a fight. Everyone loses eventually, Danny said. He would be fighting in the first trial. Besides, I've got something he's never seen before. What's that? Natalie asked. Danny grinned and held up a small container. Ball bearings. About 500 of them. The next day, the arena was packed. Thousands of aliens filled the stands, all waiting to see the humans fail. The arena itself was a large sphere, perfect for zero-gravity combat. Cameras floated everywhere, broadcasting the event across the galaxy. Vormax entered first, and the crowd roared with approval. He was terrifying to look at. His 6 arms each held a different blade, and his body was covered in battle scars. He had killed opponents in previous trials. This was not just sport to him. It was war. Then Danny floated into the arena in his combat suit. He waved at the crowd, which responded with silence and hostile stares. He did not look like a warrior. He looked like an ordinary human who had wandered into the wrong place. This will be over quickly, Zarthor announced from his viewing box. Begin. Vormax launched himself across the arena with incredible speed. His 6 blades extended, ready to cut Danny apart. The crowd leaned forward, eager to see first blood. Danny simply twisted aside, using the zero gravity to spin away. As he moved, he opened the container and released the ball bearings. Hundreds of small metal spheres scattered throughout the arena, floating in every direction. What is this? Vormax roared, confused. Just leveling the playing field, Danny called back, dodging another attack. Vormax quickly realized the problem. In zero gravity, the ball bearings were everywhere. Each time he moved, he collided with dozens of them. They were too small to hurt him, but they threw off his balance and timing. His 6 arms, normally his greatest advantage, kept hitting the bearings and sending him spinning in unwanted directions. Danny, meanwhile, moved through the chaos with ease. He pushed off the bearings like stepping stones, using them to change direction in ways that seemed impossible. Every time Vormax attacked, Danny was somewhere else, using the chaotic environment to his advantage. The fight lasted 10 minutes. Vormax grew increasingly frustrated. His attacks became wild and unfocused. He was used to controlling the battlefield, but now the battlefield was chaos. Danny waited for the perfect moment, then used a cluster of bearings to launch himself forward at high speed. He struck a single precise point on Vormax's armor, a weak spot that Kevin had identified during their research. The Dominion champion went limp, unconscious from the impact. The arena fell completely silent. No one could believe what they had just seen. The undefeated champion had lost to a human using nothing but small metal balls and clever movement. Danny floated in the center of the arena, surrounded by drifting ball bearings, and gave a small bow. Good fight, he said, even though Vormax could not hear him. Back in the viewing area, Sam turned to his team. 1 down. The second trial happened the next day. It was a test of strategy and tactics. 2 players would command virtual armies in a simulated battle. The Dominion sent their greatest military mind, a strategist named Kethrall who had won 300 consecutive strategic games. Natalie sat down at the control console across from the alien strategist. The rules were explained. They would each command equal forces in a virtual battlefield. The goal was to capture the opponent's base. Standard military strategy. The game began and Kethrall played perfectly. His moves were textbook examples of military doctrine. He controlled territory, managed resources, predicted enemy movements. It was beautiful to watch, like a master artist painting. Then Natalie did something no one expected. She divided her forces into tiny groups and sent them in random directions. She wasted resources on meaningless objectives. She ignored strategic positions. To any military expert, it looked like she had no idea what she was doing. Kethrall was confused but confident. He followed standard strategy, steadily advancing on what should have been an easy victory. But then he realized something was wrong. His supply lines were being hit by the random small groups. His perfect formations were being disrupted by unpredictable attacks. His strategic positions were useless because Natalie's forces were never where they were supposed to be. The alien strategist tried to adapt, but adaptation requires predicting enemy behavior. Natalie's behavior made no logical sense. Every time Kethral repositioned to counter her moves, she made completely different moves. In the end, Natalie captured his base through a series of actions that, individually, seemed pointless. But together, they created an opportunity that traditional strategy could never see. Kethral stood up from his console, looking at Natalie with something like respect. "How?" he asked. "Your strategy violated every principle of warfare." "Exactly," Natalie said with a smile. "You can't predict chaos, 2 victories." The Dominion was no longer laughing. In their private chambers, Zarthor met with his advisors in emergency session. "This should not be possible," he said. "How are they winning?" One of his military commanders, an old warrior named Krath, spoke up. "Chancellor, we evaluated their technology and strength. We did not evaluate their thinking. These humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They break patterns. They make chaos their weapon. Can we stop them?" Zarthor demanded. "I do not know," Krath admitted. "But I think we have made a terrible mistake in underestimating them." The trials would continue. 3 more challenges remained. And with each victory, the galaxy was beginning to wonder if perhaps the Galactic Overlords were not as superior as they claimed to be. The 3rd trial was about survival. Each species would send a team into a hostile environment filled with dangers. The goal was simple: survive for 3 days. Most species used this trial to show their toughness, their ability to endure pain and hardship. The human team entered the environment and immediately started doing something unexpected. Instead of just surviving, they began improving their surroundings. Kevin led this effort. He studied the hostile environment, which was filled with poisonous plants, extreme temperatures, and dangerous creatures. Then he started using pieces of the environment itself to build things. Within 6 hours, the humans had running water. Within 12 hours, they had temperature control. By the end of the first day, they had what looked like a small resort. The judges watched in confusion as the humans sat comfortably, eating food they had created from local resources, while other species struggled just to stay alive. "This is a survival trial," one judge protested. "They are supposed to be suffering. Are they breaking any rules?" Another judge asked. "Well, no, but this is not the spirit of the challenge. The challenge is to survive. They are surviving very well." On the 3rd day, when teams were extracted from the environment, the humans looked refreshed and relaxed. Some other species could barely walk. The Dominion judges reluctantly declared the humans had passed the trial, though they clearly did not like how it had happened. They turned a survival trial into a vacation, Zarthor growled. "This is humiliating." "It is effective," Krath observed. "They do not just meet challenges. They transform them." The 4th trial tested physical endurance and speed. Competitors would run through an obstacle course filled with barriers, traps, and physical challenges. The current record was held by a species with 4 legs and natural armor. The human runner was Chris Palmer, the former boxer. He was fit and fast, but he did not have 4 legs or natural armor. What he did have was practice in thinking differently. The course began and Chris ran hard, but he did not follow the intended path. When he reached a high wall, instead of climbing it like other competitors, he noticed the wall was attached with bolts. He loosened several bolts, pushed the wall over, and ran across it like a bridge. When he reached a pit filled with obstacles, he did not jump through them carefully. He grabbed pieces of the previous wall and threw them into the pit, creating his own path. The judges tried to stop him, but once again he was not technically breaking rules. The rules said to complete the course. They never said how. Chris finished in record time by basically destroying and rebuilding parts of the course itself. When he crossed the finish line, he looked at the judges and shrugged. "Sorry about the mess. Want me to help clean up?" The Dominion was now deeply frustrated. 4 trials, 4 human victories. Some achieved through skill, some through cleverness, all through approaches that made no traditional sense. The 5th and final trial was announced with great ceremony. It would be a military exercise. The humans would defend a base against waves of attackers. This was the Dominion's specialty. This was where they would finally prove their superiority. There would be no tricks, no chaos, just pure military might. The human team received their base location and fortification materials. They had 12 hours to prepare before the attacks began. The Dominion expected them to build walls, set up defensive positions, prepare for a long siege. Instead, the humans did something that shocked everyone. They abandoned their base entirely. Sam gathered the team and explained the plan. They expect us to defend. They expect us to be where we're supposed to be. So we're going to be somewhere else. Where? Natalie asked. Everywhere, Sam said with a grin. Kevin, can you rig their communication systems? Already working on it, Kevin replied, tapping on his datapad. The trial began. Dominion forces, numbering in the hundreds, advanced on the human base. They were organized, disciplined, overwhelming. The cameras followed them, broadcasting to billions of viewers across the galaxy. The forces reached the base and found it empty. Just one flag planted in the center with a message written in multiple languages. Looking for us. Confusion spread through the Dominion ranks. Then their communications started going haywire. Instead of military channels, they were receiving Earth music. Classical, rock, jazz, all playing at full volume. They could not contact their commanders. That was when they realized the humans were not in the base. They were in the Dominion's own staging areas. Sam stood on top of the main Dominion command tower, waving at the cameras. Around the staging area, human teams had infiltrated and captured key positions. They had not fought their way in. They had simply walked in wearing captured equipment, acting like they belonged there. By the time anyone noticed, it was too late. Hi, Sam said to the nearest camera. We figured defense was boring, so we took your stuff instead. Hope that's okay. The Dominion forces tried to respond, but they were in chaos. Their communications were down. Their supplies were in human hands. Their command structure had been completely bypassed. In a real war, they would have lost before the battle even started. The judges convened an emergency session. The argument lasted for hours. Technically, the humans had completed the objective. The goal was to prevent the enemy from taking their base. The base had not been taken. In fact, the base had become irrelevant because the humans had captured everything else. Some judges argued this was against the spirit of the trial. Others pointed out that in real warfare, winning was winning, regardless of method. The debate grew heated, with species who had been conquered by the Dominion arguing most strongly that the humans had followed the rules perfectly. Finally, the head judge made the ruling. The humans have won. They achieved the objective through unconventional means, but war does not care about convention. Victory is victory! Zarthor stood up, his massive form shaking with rage. This is unacceptable. They cheated. They twisted every rule, made a mockery of sacred traditions. They played the game, the head judge replied calmly. You simply did not like how they played it. The Chancellor turned to face the human delegation. His eyes burned with fury. This changes nothing. The Dominion has fleets. We have armies across 1,000 worlds. We could crush your planet regardless of these trial results. Jake Morrison, who had been watching from the human section, stood up. You could try, he said quietly. But now you know what you're dealing with. Every tactic we used here, we used openly. We showed you what we can do. Imagine what we kept hidden. Imagine what we'll do if you actually threaten our home. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Zarthor's face. The arrogant Chancellor who had mocked humanity was beginning to realize he might have made a serious mistake. Commander Krath, the old warrior who had been watching everything, stepped forward. Chancellor, permission to speak. Zarthor nodded stiffly. We have lost more than trials today, Krath said. We have lost the certainty of our superiority. These humans have shown the galaxy something we had forgotten. They have shown that strength is not just about power. It is about adaptation. It is about thinking in ways your enemy cannot predict. Krath turned to face the human team. He performed a gesture that the translation software identified as a sign of deep respect. You have fought well. You have fought honorably, even when you fought strangely. On behalf of those in the Dominion who still remember what true strength means, I apologize. You were judged unfairly. Sam looked at his team, then back at Krath. Apology accepted. And for what it's worth, we weren't trying to humiliate anyone. We were just trying to survive. By making fools of us, Zarthor spat. No, Lisa Chen said, stepping forward. By being ourselves. We joke when we're scared. We improvise when we're outmatched. We laugh at impossible odds because sometimes that's all we have. The fact that it worked isn't about making you look foolish. It's about refusing to let you make us feel small. The words hung in the air. Around the hall, representatives from other conquered species began whispering among themselves. Some looked thoughtful. Others looked inspired. The humans had done more than win trials. They had shown that the mighty Dominion could be challenged. The days following the trials were strange and tense. The humans remained at the neutral station while the Galactic Council debated what to do. Technically, humanity had won. They had completed all 5 trials successfully. By the Dominion's own rules, Earth should be free. But rules were one thing. Reality was another. The Dominion still had vast military power. They could still destroy Earth if they chose to. The question was whether they would honor their own laws or simply take what they wanted. Sam and his team spent those days meeting with representatives from other species. Many came quietly, not wanting the Dominion to know they were talking to humans. They all had similar stories. Their worlds had been conquered, their people forced to serve, their cultures suppressed. "You have done something remarkable," said an ambassador from a species called the Verim. She was small and bird-like, with feathers that changed color with her emotions. "You have shown it is possible to resist. For centuries, we believed the Dominion was unbeatable. Now we know better." "We got lucky," Sam said honestly. "We had the element of surprise. Now they know what we can do." "But they do not know what else you can do," the Verim ambassador replied. "That is the fear you have planted. Uncertainty. It is more powerful than any weapon." Similar conversations happened across the station. Species that had been silent for generations were starting to talk, starting to question, starting to hope. In the Dominion's chambers, Zarthor faced a different kind of challenge. His own council was divided. Some wanted to attack Earth immediately, to crush this upstart species before they could inspire more rebellion. Others urged caution, arguing that attacking now would only prove the humans right and might trigger wider resistance. Commander Krath led those urging caution. "Chancellor, we face a choice. We can use force and maintain control through fear, as we have always done, or we can acknowledge that perhaps the galaxy is changing and we must change with it." "You would have us bow to these primitives?" Zarthor demanded. "I would have us respect them," Krath replied. "There is a difference between strength and wisdom, Chancellor. We have strength. These humans have shown wisdom. Perhaps we could learn from each other rather than destroy each other." The debate raged for days. Meanwhile, news of the trials spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The broadcasts had been watched by billions. The humans had become famous, their victories replayed and discussed on countless worlds. On Earth, the reaction was celebration, mixed with anxiety. They had won the trials, but what came next? Jake Morrison coordinated with world leaders, preparing for every possibility. If the Dominion attacked, Earth would fight. They would lose, probably, but they would make it costly. But the attack never came. Instead, after a week of deliberation, the Galactic Council made an announcement. The Dominion would honor the results of the trials. Earth would remain free and independent. Furthermore, humanity would be invited to join the galactic community as equals, not as servants. It was not a complete victory. The Dominion was still powerful, still dominant in many ways, but something fundamental had changed. They had been forced to acknowledge that they were not invincible, that younger species deserved respect. Zarthor made the announcement himself, though his expression showed how much it pained him. "The humans have proven themselves in the trials. They have earned their freedom. Let it be known across the galaxy that Earth is under the protection of galactic law." It was not an apology. It was not even particularly gracious, but it was acknowledgement. Sam and his team prepared to return to Earth. Before they left, Commander Krath requested a private meeting. They met in a quiet observation room overlooking the stars. "I wanted to speak with you before you leave," Krath said. He looked old and tired, his scarred hide showing the weight of centuries. "You have taught this old warrior something important." "What's that?" Sam asked. "That strength without flexibility is brittle. That power without wisdom is temporary. That being feared is not the same as being respected." Krath was quiet for a moment. "The Dominion has ruled through fear for so long we forgot there were other ways. Your species reminded us." "We didn't mean to start a revolution," Sam said. "The best revolutions are never planned," Krath replied. "They happen when someone simply refuses to accept that things must always be as they have been." "You refuse to accept defeat. That refusal has changed everything. What happens now?" Sam asked. Will the Dominion really change? Some will, some will not. Change is always slow and difficult. Krath looked out at the stars, but seeds have been planted. Other species have seen that resistance is possible. The Dominion will have to adapt or eventually fall. Either way, the galaxy will be different because of what you did here. The human team boarded the Unity for the journey home. As they prepared to leave, messages arrived from dozens of species. Trade offers, cultural exchange proposals, requests for diplomatic relations. Earth, which had been alone in the galaxy just months ago, suddenly had friends. The journey home felt different than the journey out. They had left Earth as desperate underdogs fighting for survival. They returned as heroes who had changed the galaxy. When they arrived back on Earth, crowds filled the streets of every major city. The celebration lasted for days. But for Sam and his team, the best moment came quietly, in the command center where it had all begun. Jake Morrison shook each team member's hand. You did it. You actually did it. We got lucky, Sam said, echoing what he had told the Verum ambassador. Maybe, Jake agreed. But you also showed the galaxy who we are. You showed them that humans don't give up, that we find ways to win even when winning seems impossible, that we can laugh in the face of danger and somehow make it work. Over the following months, Earth changed rapidly. Ships from friendly species arrived with technology, knowledge, and offers of friendship. Humanity learned faster than any species in galactic history, absorbing centuries of accumulated knowledge in mere months. The Dominion did change, though slowly. Some species began demanding better treatment, inspired by humanity's example. The Dominion had to choose between endless war against multiple rebellions or becoming something better than conquerors. They chose change, however, reluctantly. Commander Krath visited Earth 6 months after the trials. He stood in Jake's office looking out at the blue planet below. Your world is beautiful, Krath said. I understand now why you fought so hard for it. Every species fights for their home, Jake replied. Yes, but not every species fights the way you do. You fight with joy. You fight with humor. You fight with creativity. Krath turned to face Jake. The Dominion ruled through fear and power for millennia. Your species has existed in space for less than a century. Yet somehow you have taught us something we had forgotten. What's that? That true strength comes not from dominating others, but from respecting them. That power means nothing without wisdom. That the universe is better when species work together rather than conquer each other. Krath paused. Your species will do great things, Commander Morrison. The galaxy will be better for your presence in it. Though I suspect it will also be considerably more chaotic, Jake laughed. That's kind of our specialty. As Krath left, Jake returned to the window. Down on Earth, people were living their normal lives, most unaware of how close they had come to losing everything. But they were safe now, not because humanity was the strongest or the most advanced, but because they had remained fundamentally human. The Galactic Overlords had mocked humanity, expecting submission and fear. Instead, they got creativity, humor, and an absolute refusal to be intimidated. They learned what humans had always known. The universe might be vast and dangerous, but it was also full of possibilities for those brave enough or crazy enough to seize them. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. They did not need to. They simply showed up, did what they do best, and reminded everyone that being underestimated was sometimes the greatest advantage of all. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. And humanity was just getting started.